They thought we'd spend this week hearing about Lindsey Graham, the statesman, the dedicated public servant, the man who, quote, served his country for 3 decades in Congress. Every network, same script. National Cathedral, horse-drawn caisson, Sean Hannity choking up at the podium. Until you follow the money. Because behind every tribute delivered in Washington this week, there's a paper trail. And it doesn't lead to patriotism. It leads to over $1 million in pro-Israel PAC money. It leads to a sign Graham held up next to Benjamin Netanyahu that said 3 words, quote, "More for Israel." It leads to the moment Lindsey Graham looked into a camera and said dropping nuclear bombs on civilians was, quote, okay. And not a single eulogy mentioned any of it.
I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. And Biden says be proportional. What is the proportional response to people who want to kill you and your family? Gosh. They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends.
I'm Brandon Mace, and this is Political Lens. Here's what we're breaking down today. 1. The $1 million paper trail the obituaries buried. 2. What that money actually bought, from the Iraq War to calling for nuclear strikes. 3. Why this funeral coverage tells us more about Washington right now than Lindsey Graham ever did. Let's start with the numbers, because they don't disappear just because the man died. Over his career, Lindsey Graham took in over $1 million from pro-Israel interest groups. The Republican Jewish coalition alone funneled 7 figures into his campaigns. And Graham didn't just cash the checks, he delivered. Here's where it gets interesting. In 2021, after Israel launched an assault on Gaza that killed hundreds of Palestinians, and I want you to hear this sequence, Graham flew to Tel Aviv. He posed next to Benjamin Netanyahu for a photograph, holding a sign that read 3 words, "More for Israel." Then he went back to Washington and secured an additional $1 billion in U.S. military aid.
And no one has done more for Israel than you, Senator Lindsey Graham. He is a stalwart champion of our alliance, and we have no better friend. So I want to thank you for everything you've been doing over the years on our defenses, our security, on Iran. You've been a tremendous friend, tremendous ally.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Think about what that means. A U.S. senator paid by your tax dollars, representing South Carolina, flew to a foreign country during an active bombing campaign, posed with their prime minister holding a sign demanding more of American money, and then made it happen. That's not foreign policy. That's a transaction. So what did $1 million in pro-Israel PAC support actually purchase? Graham voted for the 2003 invasion of Iraq, a war that killed hundreds of thousands of people and cost American taxpayers over $2 trillion. He never wavered on it, never apologized. 20 years later, he was still defending it. He was one of the most aggressive voices pushing for military strikes on Iran right up until his death on July 11th. Al Jazeera's obituary described him bluntly: Israel advocate, Trump ally, Iran war supporter. And Congressman Tim Burchett, Graham's fellow Republican, summarized Lindsey Graham's entire foreign policy in one sentence.
Senator Lindsey Graham is now calling for the U.S. to start bombing Lebanon in response to the Hezbollah IDF action.
Lindsey hadn't seen a fist fight he hasn't wanted to turn into a bombing, right? So I just take it with a grain of salt, dude. Yes, ma'am.
That happened. That is the legacy. But the most revealing moment wasn't about Iraq or Iran. It was about Gaza. In 2024, Lindsey Graham went on NBC News and was asked whether there were any limits to what Israel should be allowed to do. His answer, and I want you to hear this word for word, Graham said, "Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? I thought it was okay, So Israel, do whatever you have to do.
Can I say this? Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
A sitting U.S. senator said dropping nuclear weapons on civilians was acceptable. And this week, that man was eulogized in the National Cathedral as a patriot. Let's zoom out, because this is bigger than Lindsey Graham. This funeral coverage is a window into how the system protects itself. The same institutions that enabled Graham's forever wars are now writing his legacy. They're not going to mention the $1 million. They're not going to mention the nuclear bomb quote. They're going to talk about his friendship with John McCain, his sense of humor, his service. And the machine that produced Lindsey Graham, the same machine that's still producing senators who trade military aid for campaign cash, gets to keep running. Whether you're MAGA, independent, or progressive, this isn't a party issue. This is an American issue. The question isn't whether you liked Lindsey Graham. The question is, how many more senators are still holding up that same sign? Drop your take in the comments below, because this is exactly the conversation they don't want you having this week. And if you want to see how AIPAC's money shapes Congress beyond just one senator, click the video on your screen right now. We will see you on the next video right here on Political Lens.